friends, and welcome back to another Majora's Mask making video, Majora's Mask project making video. I believe we are up to our 15th mask. Now I'm super excited to let you guys know this one wasn't actually too requested, but I'm excited to tell you guys that the 15th mask of the series is Kafei's mask. Now I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. So I've heard people say it as Kafei, but when I played Majora's Mask, I just kept saying Kafei, and that's always the way that I read the name. So I apologize if I am getting it wrong, but I'm quite stubborn, so I'm gonna stick to pronouncing it Kafei for the rest of the video, just because I don't know any better. For anyone that doesn't know, the way to get Kafei's mask is at the very beginning of the first day of Majora's Mask. You head to the mayor's residence and you talk to Madame Aroma through the closed door, and she is in search of Kafei, so she handmade this mask and she gives it to you to be able to talk to him. So when you receive this mask, it starts the Kafei and Anju wedding quest. This one was really exciting to me. I had just like ideas for this one from the start. It's the same method as always, basically mold everything with foil and foam clay and just try to make sure it's as symmetrical as possible and then cover it with paint when it's all dry. I'm a little bit worried about the color palette just because I have a few different paints and I want to make sure that I mix up the paints to match the colors as well as I can, and I also don't know if I will completely cut out the eyes and the mouth to match the mask pattern that is within the game. I say pattern, the mask design that is within the game, because it looks like the mouth and the eyes are missing. In the case that I do, I'll probably just use black mesh to cover it up so I can see through them, but also be able to have them like dark so you won't be able to see my features when I wear the mask. I honestly don't have too much to say for the introduction / beginning of this video, so I hope you guys enjoy how it turns out, and without further ado, I'll stop my yapping and you guys can get to the mask making.
So like all the other masks, I grabbed my Amazon mask base and I had to make a few alterations. This time though, I decided to start my mask on stream, so I was chatting to some viewers across TikTok, Twitch and YouTube while I made the mask. The basic idea was to cut off the nose because the mask had a flat face, cut out the mouth and then make the eyes a little bit more round. Once I was happy with how it was cut out, it was time to use some masking tape and cover up the parts that I didn't need. This included the nose hole and the sides of the eyes, just to ensure that they were more like circles rather than oval almond shape. I also probably should have made it a little bit more flat around the nose area with the masking tape, but I fixed it after with foam clay anyway. The next thing that I needed to do was shape the hair bits with foil. There were 6 bits in total, 2 big pieces for the back of the hair, 2 pieces that come out and protrude from under the big pieces, and 2 pieces at the front that were kind of like curtain bangs. I didn't time lapse myself hot gluing it down, but here is a snippet of stream of me struggling to hold it and glue it all together. I did also realize that the back bits weren't long enough, so halfway through the gluing I did need to extend them, which I just used some more foil to do. Once everything was glued on, I also used more masking tape to just shape it the way that I wanted to, and made sure it was a little bit more even. Then it was time to do the foam clay. I was a little bit worried about the foam clay because of the bunny hood and other pieces where I used a lot of foil. I knew that the weight of the foam clay could potentially alter the way that it was sitting. So I just did foam clay on the face to begin with. I also ended up finishing stream there, so that is all that chat saw. Once stream had been stopped, I made sure to cover it with water so it would dry more smooth. The next day when it was dry, it was time to start adding foam clay to the hair. I started with the front 2 bits, the curtain bangs and the parts that protrude out underneath, before hoping that will have a little bit of time to dry and I could start on the back pieces. I also tried my best to really layer up the foam clay so the bits of the hair could be differentiated from each other by the time it dries. And after a little bit of time, I started to work on the foam clay for the back of the hair. This took me quite a bit of time and it was a little bit awkward to kind of hold, but once I got into the rhythm, I was pretty happy with how it was turning out. I did have to hang it upside down to dry though, because I wanted to make sure the curved part of the hair dried curved. Otherwise, if I left it the right way up, the curves would actually flatten. I left that to dry overnight, so the next day, that part of the hair was dry and it was time to do the inside. You don't have to do the inside of the hair with foam clay, but I wanted to make sure it was all cohesive and to also just clean it up a little bit. I don't really like the feeling of foil against my hair when I wear the masks, so I wanted to make sure that everything was covered. I also had a lot of foam clay because I had recently bought a new tub, so I was happy to use quite a bit. I then left that outside in the sun to dry, and later that day when it was mostly dry, it was time to paint. I didn't mind too much if the back was still drying as I was painting, because it was more for cohesiveness, structural integrity, and also no one would be looking at it. I mixed up a light yellowish skin tone for the face. It did look almost too yellow until I put on the purple for the hair. But I was trusting the process because I knew that once the colors would be side by side, it would probably look better. I then started to mix up a purple. I had a light purple paint and like a teal paint. So I mixed those two together with a tiny touch of black until I found a shade that I was happy with. I then completely covered the hair with the purple paint and also remembered that I had to cover the eyebrows as well. The first couple of coats did not look neat at all, but I was hoping that if I did 3 to 4 coats of paint that everything would look a little bit better. I think the purple paint that I started with originally was also more watery compared to the other acrylic paints that I use. It is a different brand, so I think that also affected it. This was about 2 coats in on both the face and the hair, and it was slowly starting to come together. I just basically had to keep going. I think I did about 2 more coats of paint of the purple on the hair alone, and I didn't really have to do any more coats of paint on the face. Once I was mostly happy with the coloring on the hair, I then grabbed some lighter purple, which was just a mix of the purple that I used already for the hair and white, and made 2 different lighter shades so I could start to make a gradient for the glare of the hair. The mask design looks like the hair is quite shiny, so I just tried to replicate that as best as I could with the paint, but I knew that I probably wouldn't get the full effect that I possibly could unless I added a bunch of small details. And at this point, I was running out of time. Once the 2 lighter shades were applied for the glare, I then grabbed the purple on its own, not the mixed up purple that I used for the hair, but just the plain purple acrylic paint, and started to lightly brush that over the dark and lighter colors to try and blend them together just a little bit. I was pretty happy with how this was starting to look. The lighter colors were on the little fringy bits up near the side of the hair and on the points of the curve, so basically anywhere the light reflection would hit. I then grabbed my markers, luckily I had a purple shade, and started to add some lines. This was to try and make it look a little bit more like hair, having a couple of strands in there, but it was quite messy. So the next day I actually grabbed my paint marker, pressed down on the tip of it so a bunch of ink leaked out, and grabbed a pointed brush to go over the lines. Once I was happy with that, I then grabbed a pencil and started to sketch out where I wanted to cut because the mask face was slightly too round. The design is a lot more elongated, and in some cases people think that it's more pointed, so I wanted to make it look slightly longer, so I just cut down the chin a little bit. Also, don't mind me in potato form. I was in my pajamas and my hair was annoying me, so I went straight up into a bun. But this is what the chin looked like when I was done with it. Just a little bit more pointed. The next thing that I wanted to do was to put the mesh behind the eyes and the mouth. At this point, I had also run out of hot glue, so I was using super glue. I cut out the black mesh that I already had and I've used for other masks, making sure to fold it over so it was double layered, just so it looked a little bit darker, and then glued it around the eyes and the mouth, making sure to cut off the excess once it was dry. The next thing that I wanted to do was attach the elastics to make the mask wearable. The mask holes that already came with the Amazon base mask was now completely covered by the hair though. I didn't want to put holes through the hair like I did with other masks, usually just poking it through the other features, so I just poked through the holes instead with a pencil and fed the elastic through. Then I just completely sealed that with some super glue. I will also note that super glue isn't the best to use. I would recommend hot glue over super glue because the fumes were intense until it was completely dry. The last thing that I did was use black paint to clean up around the eyes and the mouth, just to make them a little bit more tidy and to hide any offcuts. And that's the Kafei mask done. I was pretty happy with it, but please let me know if you like how it turned out. Feel free to subscribe if you want to follow along with the project, and let me know in the comments which mask you would like to see next. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye!